There is a feeling that certain people leave behind when they exit a room, a residue of warmth, of aliveness, of something that made the air itself feel more breathable while they were present. It is not beauty, though beautiful people sometimes have it. It is not intelligence, though intelligent people sometimes carry it. It is not success or status, or any of the things that can be measured and displayed. It is something else entirely, something that defies the usual categories, something that makes strangers lean in and friends feel chosen, and even enemies soften without knowing why. The word for it is charisma, but the word explains nothing. It only names the mystery without solving it. Most attempts to manufacture this quality produce its opposite. The techniques, the tricks, the calculated eye contact and rehearsed vulnerability, these create a presence that feels like performance, and performance is precisely what charisma is not. There is a smell to effort, a subtle desperation that leaks through even the most polished delivery. People sense it the way animals sense fear. The trying becomes visible, and visible trying repels rather than attracts. This is why the advice fails, why the books disappoint, why the seminars produce people who seem less natural than before they attended. Charisma cannot be performed. It can only be emanated. An emanation requires something that technique cannot provide. The ones who have it share a quality that is difficult to articulate, but impossible to miss once recognized. They are not performing themselves. They are being themselves with such completeness that the self becomes magnetic. There is no gap between who they are and who they are presenting. No static between the inner experience and the outer expression. No energy being burned on the endless calculations of how they are being perceived. This absence of gap is what others feel as presence. The warmth is simply the warmth of someone who has stopped fighting themselves long enough to actually be in the room. Nietzsche understood that most people live in a state of constant self-suppression. The authentic impulse arises and is immediately intercepted, evaluated, edited to fit what is acceptable, what is expected, what will not draw attention or invite rejection. This interception happens so fast and so continuously that it becomes invisible, just the way things are, just how a person operates in the world. But the interception has a cost. Every suppressed impulse takes energy to suppress. Every edited expression leaves a residue of incompleteness. The self that emerges from this constant filtering is not a self at all. It is a committee decision, a compromise, a diluted version that offends no one, because it has been stripped of everything that could offend. And diluted presence does not draw people in. It lets them pass by without noticing. Charisma is what happens when the filtering stops. Not the filtering that prevents cruelty or harm. That filtering serves connection rather than blocking it. But the filtering that prevents aliveness, that intercepts joy before it can fully express, that edits enthusiasm into coolness and curiosity, into detachment and passion, into something more palatable. When that filtering stops, what remains is a person in full contact with their own experience, and that contact is what others feel as magnetism. The charismatic person is not doing anything special. They have simply stopped doing the thing that everyone else is constantly doing, the thing that makes everyone else feel like a photograph of a person, rather than the person themselves. This is why charisma cannot be faked and cannot be taught through technique. Technique adds layers. Charisma removes them. Technique asks what should be projected. Charisma asks what is being suppressed. The path to presence is not acquisition, but subtraction. Not building a better performance, but dismantling the performer entirely, until what remains Is someone actually here, actually alive, actually willing to be seen, without the buffer of calculation? The fear that drives the filtering is the fear of rejection, and the fear is not irrational. Authenticity does invite rejection. The unfiltered self will not appeal to everyone. Edges that have been sanded down for years will, when allowed to return, cut some people the wrong way. This is not a bug in the system. It is the price of presence. The charismatic person has made a trade that most people are unwilling to make. They have accepted that some will dislike them in exchange for being fully felt by those who remain. The filtered person makes the opposite trade. They avoid rejection by avoiding being truly perceived, and the avoidance costs them the very aliveness that would make them worth perceiving. Nietzsche's vision of the higher human was not someone who had transcended emotion or mastered some esoteric discipline. It was someone who had stopped apologizing for their own existence, stopped shrinking to fit spaces that were never meant to contain them, stopped living as a reaction to the anticipated judgments of others. This is not arrogance. Arrogance is another form of performance, another calculation, another way of managing perception rather than releasing it. What Nietzsche pointed toward was something simpler and more difficult: the willingness to be what one actually is, fully and without apology, and to let the world respond however it will respond. The secret is that there is no secret. There is only the willingness to stop hiding, the willingness to let the enthusiasm show, to let the intensity exist without dampening it for the comfort of others, to let the full weight of attention land on another person without the protective diffusion that makes attention feel safe and forgettable. Most people have never experienced what it feels like to be the complete focus of someone who is not distracted by their own self-monitoring. When they do experience it, they call it charisma. But it is not a special power. It is simply what presence feels like when presence is not being rationed. The charismatic are not performing confidence. They have simply stopped performing doubt. They are not projecting warmth. They have simply stopped suppressing it. They are not trying to make others feel special. They are simply present enough to actually see others. And being seen by someone who is actually present feels like being special, because it is so rare. In a world of filtered selves interacting with filtered selves, the unfiltered become extraordinary by default. Not because they are doing more, because they are doing less. The invitation is not to become someone else. It is to stop efforting away from who is already there. The magnetism is not missing. It is buried, and the burial was never protection. It was just a slower way of disappearing.